just started filming again.
When autumn
Hee hee hee.
leaves start to fall.
Hey guys, how's it going? Sorry I haven't made a video in a year. I just got caught up in doing a whole lot of nothing, and then I graduated from college, and then a pandemic happened, and then I'm here in my parents' house. So, doing great. Don't have a job, so if you're looking for someone to do editing or anything, hire me. I'm also taking sponsorships at this time. Anyways, so we're back with a new video. We're just gonna get into it. So to preface this video, um, I don't like Tarantino. Quentin Tarantino. I don't really like how creepy he is. I don't really like him using black vernacular and other things. We'll get into that. I don't like him wearing traditional clothing. I don't like the senseless violence in his films because it's just not really my thing. I will say that I don't like action movies generally. But in the case of Little Baby QT, my dislike for the films are multifaceted. There's this video of him talking to this reporter, and the reporter seems to ask questions that kind of seem to provoke him a little bit.
Why are you so sure that there's no link between enjoying movie violence and enjoying real violence?
I'm going to tell you why I'm so sure. Don't ask me a question like that. I'm not biting. I refuse your question.
Why?
Because I refuse your question. I'm not your slave and you're not my master. You can't make me dance to your tune. I'm not a monkey.
I can't make you answer anything. I'm asking you interesting questions.
And I'm saying I refuse.
Okay, well, no, I was just asking you why.
And to be fair, he has the right to get upset. On the other hand, you could kind of explain your side without kind of blowing up, interrupting at the reporter. But maybe that's kind of just the introverted, non-confrontational person that I am. I think me and Quentin Tarantino are very different people, so I don't know. I'll also add that I used to love Pulp Fiction in high school, and then I watched it in college, and very much did not think the same thing. I got bored and turned it off about halfway. Just did not hold up at all. Another thing I'd like to add is that there was one Quentin Tarantino film that I actually kind of enjoy, Django Unchained. I don't know, it's something about black lead western that's super cool and super exciting to me, although the film does have some issues. We'll also get into that. Yeah, but just with all that being said, let's get into some of the films that I watched. Our first movie up is Reservoir Dogs. This is Quentin Tarantino's directorial debut. At least that's what I read on one thing, so I'm just gonna believe it. Basically, the movie's about a bank heist that goes wrong. Super interesting stuff. Basically, the movie's about a bank heist that goes wrong, and I have some thoughts. Let's break down the movie first before I get into it. Basically, you open the film. It's a bunch of older white men sitting at a circle table in a diner. They're talking about dicks. They're talking about "Like a Virgin" by Madonna. It's the euphemisms that blah blah blah, and obviously, good boy Quasimodo T-Mobile is talking. Once we get past that, we see younger Steve Buscemi. It turns out that Steve's a little weasel.
Come on, throw in a bone.
And he doesn't tip.
I don't tip.
And we can't stand. But everyone comes at him and tries to understand why he wouldn't tip, and it shows a little bit of like a progressive view, but then it just fizzles away. And this is right before the heist. They're just hanging out, and then opening credits. And if you're gonna do slow motion, shoot in slow motion. Don't fake it, because this whole scene where they're supposed to be looking badass is just like, and then right after the title sequence is blood. And I shouldn't have expected anything else from Quentin Tarantino besides just blood all the time. That's just who he is, and this is kind of just a kickstart of the film, pretty much, because prior to this, there was the bank heist, but it doesn't show the bank heist. Then they get to the safe spot, and this dude thinks he's gonna die, and then there's a little cuddle scene. Just wanna cuddle up close to your best boy. Then another guy shows up, and they're talking about what happened prior to this scene. Yeah, I don't know. Like this whole film is just kind of nothing. There's films that don't, like, nothing really happens. It's just kind of like a day in the life. And then, like any great movie, you have to put in a certain thing or else you're not a film. And that certain thing is the scream. Now, you may have heard this scream in movies like Star Wars, SpongeBob, and Quentin Tarantino thought it would be the best thing to just throw it in, just so it could pass the film test, because every film has to have this scream, obviously. There's a whole stretch, and pretty much the whole entire film takes place in this warehouse, which is like the safe spot. So there's these monologues that are talking about what happened. You never really see the bank heist, and you never really see many things outside of this warehouse. And in general, that's a cool concept, but the way it's conveyed just does make it seem like it's more of a student film. Then, Steve Buscemi says the most elegant, beautiful line.
Where's the commode in this dungeon? I gotta take a squirt.
You're gonna show me how you squirt or what?
I don't know why I put that in. We get some little misogynistic stuff going on. We get some racism. Another thing I'm learning is, from this film at least, is that Quentin loves to put in racial slurs, especially the N-word. It's sort of his calling card, much like his feet or the violence. Then we see cops joking about abusive power, fun stuff, and then we hear the word mental, which is not good. And then we get some real slow motion, which makes me just remember the title sequence. And if you know how to shoot slow motion, why didn't you shoot it for the title sequence? But then we also get fake slow motion. So I'm like, they just didn't know what to do, or they didn't have enough coverage, and then decided to throw things in slow motion to get pacing right, even though it wasn't supposed to be in slow motion. I don't know. And then we get some more racism. We get another use of the N-word. We get a use of the term back. We get the F word, the gay slur, and then we get to the ending, and it sucks. So let's just get to the high points. Steve was a solid actor, so I'll give him that. And it was interesting, the reveal of information slowly is an interesting concept. You got to do what you have to do to get a story told in a way, even if you don't have a big budget. I don't know, it was kind of cool. And then the twist was interesting, although not super surprising, I guess. I don't know. I'm not sure if I liked it, to be honest. Then let's get to the low points, shall we? The acting overall was kind of these are all pretty decent actors, at least the ones that I know of, and they all just do kind of half decent performances. Probably the most obvious low point is all the racial and homophobic slurs used throughout the film. This is set in I think the 90s or the 80s, maybe. Probably the 90s. I'm gonna give this movie 2 blood drops out of 10. Let's move on, shall we? So the next movie on my list that I got suggested was Kill Bill. So let's just kind of break down the whole plot, shall we? We start out. The opening is this cool like 70s aesthetic. Like, okay, this is kind of a better produced film, obviously. And the first shot, just in general, is a lot more interesting. At least I think so. Then we get into the title credits and we see something I just expected to see, honestly. The Weinstein brothers, aka Harvey Weinstein, and his brother, that I don't know the name of, executive produced it, which makes perfect sense to me. Then we get to kind of one of the first scenes in the story, and it just looks exactly like the Cat in the Hat. Like, almost exactly. The color grading and the way they shot it just looks like Cat in the Hat suburbia, where everything's super bright but kind of like dreamy and stuff. And I didn't realize when I was watching, but they both came out in 2003. So I don't know what was happening in 2003 to cause the Cat in the Hat and a Quentin Tarantino movie to like cross paths aesthetically, but here we are. Another thing, there was the first fight scene, and Uma Thurman's character, who doesn't have a name that we know of, fights this other character, and she's trying to get revenge and stuff. And honestly, the first fight scene was a little disappointing. Like, the way it was edited felt weird to me.
Hi. Okay, so what I mean by this is that the editing is super weird. The pacing is just kind of non-existent. Yeah, I don't explain it well. Yeah, okay, bye.
And fucking more violence for the sake of violence, like so much violence. But also, it's supposed to be a violent film, I guess, so I can understand it. And another point that I remember is like this character got pregnant in the last 4 years because Uma Thurman didn't know about this baby 4 years ago when they knew each other.
And not a goddamn fucking thing you've done in the subsequent 4 years, including getting knocked up, is gonna change that.
But the daughter is like has to be 6 or 7, so that makes no sense to me at all. Just the timeline doesn't make sense at all. You know, who cares? It's Quentin Tarantino movie. He doesn't. We don't need to know facts, right? You know, does that make sense? We get some creepy men, and that's great. Love just representing creepy men. They are an underrepresented group, and Quentin Tarantino really just loves to showcase them. Because we get more creepy men, and one of them is pimping Uma Thurman's character, who is in a coma, out people to have sex with her when she's in a coma. And like, what's the point of writing this? I guess it makes you drawn to the character more, but also like, I don't know. I don't think I could be able to think of a concept like this and want to write it down and then make a movie with that as a scene. But at least Uma Thurman kills all the creepy men, and you know that's well deserved, and she can do whatever she wants. So she's paralyzed from the waist down temporarily because she just woke up from a coma. She gets in the car and is trying to get her legs to start working. And we just get so long of a scene in the back of this car where she's trying to get her feet to work, and it's just a shot of her feet and saying move to like one of her toes. Completely unnecessary. This is the first foot scene of Quentin Tarantino that is in this video, and you know we're gonna talk about it in a little bit because I feel so gross about that. The bride, which is what her character's name is, she goes to Japan, and we learn about Oren, and it's this really interesting like anime format, and this is probably one of the coolest parts of the film, and not something I feel like I would have expected from Quentin Tarantino. She goes to this sushi bar in Japan, and we meet this one dude, and then she confronts him about the fact that he trained Oren, and like she needs a sword, and he's this very talented sword maker. And then she convinces him, and she's training. Then she goes to confront Oren, and this is probably the best part of the film besides the anime portion. Like the first fight scene, like I said, was like not very interesting. It's just kind of like a journey we're getting taken on, and then finally we get to this place where it's just like pretty much all action and all suspense. Although we do get some more feet. We get this scene where there's this band. Just for some reason, this band is all is just no one's wearing shoes. But everyone around is wearing shoes. But like we get shots of just their feet while they're playing, and it's just like, do you need to indulge yourself like that? Anyway, we'll get back to it. We get this really cool fight scene where the bride is just going after Oren's gang, and then we get this portion of a scene where the bride gets choked out by this other character, and just remember that. Yeah, just put a pin in that. We'll get back to it. But yeah, solid ending. I really liked it. So let's talk about the high points. Obviously Uma Thurman, obviously Lucy Liu. Both of them had really great performances and really great like choreography with their fighting and stuff. Also, the animation scenes were super cool. Honestly, I wish that this was something that Quentin Tarantino took and used in his films more, because it just kind of was surprising and caught me off guard, but super interesting. The music was pretty good. The colors were really cool. Just like set design and also color grading was just awesome. Besides the Cat in the Hat portion, that was a little rough. And the cinematography was a lot better than Reservoir Dogs. Low point was the feet. Why do we have to see feet? You know, Kill Bill was a 8 or 9 blood drops out of 10. Inglourious Basterds is the next film we're going to talk about. Let's just get into it. So, Inglourious Basterds is about this group of guys in the U.S. military that are out to hunt Nazis. But the first scene is so devastating. It's just so sad. You think that everything's going to be okay, and then it isn't, and then it's just disappointing. There's that, and then we get into, I guess, the meat of the story, which is the Bastards, I guess. And Brad Pitt is their leader, and his accent is so bad.
We're going to be doing one thing, and one thing only. Killing Nazis.
I don't know if he chose to do that. I don't know if it was supposed to be funny, but it's bad. And that's a choice. We also see Ryan the Temp show up. It's out of place. Whatever. Anyways. And then we get a little bit of fun kind of racism. Brad Pitt says that he's got a little Indian in him.
I'm the direct descendant of the mountain man Jim Bridger. That means I got a little engine in me.
And to play off of that, he wants scalps of the Nazis.
Each and every man under my command owes me 100 Nazi scalps. And I want my scalps. And all y'all will get me 100 Nazi scalps, taken from the heads of 100 dead Nazis.
And that's his whole thing. And just that little acting bit is just so bad. Like it seems like it's like a comedy. I don't know. We get to see some gore, because that's what you come to a Quentin Tarantino film for, gore. So Cue Ball Tito Vodka said, let's show them scalping. Do I need to see what scalping looks like? The answer is no. And then we get into a montage, and it's narrated. And this is kind of where things go awry for me, because why would you put narration? But it's Samuel Jackson, so just gotta have it, you know? We're learning about who the Bastards are and what their plan is and everything. And this is where I kind of start to question if it's the acting or the directing or the writing that's just making just pretty poor performances come out. And this is also where we kind of get a mix of interesting music for World War II film.
The High Command decided to send him back to Berlin to be made an example of.
Your status is Nazi killers.
Where we get like Western music, and then we also get like a blaxploitation 70s music in just a matter of seconds. And then we get introduced to the daughter that ran away at the beginning of the film. She's now living in Paris, and she's running this theater, and then this Nazi soldier comes up and starts talking to her and starts flirting with her. And I'm like, where is this gonna go? And it's like disgusting that we're kind of building this love narrative with this Jewish woman. God, it's a weird power dynamic that I did not need for this film. Right in the middle of this weird conversation with a bunch of white men, we get a sex scene that comes literally out of nowhere. And then Christoph Waltz comes in, and he's a very scary person. Like, he makes me very anxious. So basically, up until this point, pretty much there's been two storylines. There's been the storyline of the Bastards, and then the storyline of the Jewish woman. After the Jewish woman has had this confrontation with Waltz's character, she has this idea to kill all the Nazis that are coming to this premiere that is at her cinema, that Nazi boy facilitated. And then we cut to a scene where we meet this new character, and he's supposed to be the spy, and he's supposed to be meeting with another spy and the Bastards to kill all the Nazis at this premiere also. And then they meet up with the double spy, and then they are in this bar, and there's Nazi soldiers there. Nazi general or officer or whatever the fuck comes up and kind of questions who they are and what they're doing and everything, and it's just like stressful. And then we get this fun little scene where they get caught. A bunch of people are just pointing their guns at everyone's balls. It's just a fun night out, you know? And then there's a shootout. Pretty much everyone dies. Brad Pitt comes to the rescue and tries to save the double spy. And then Brad Pitt interrogates the double spy to see like what happened and why everything went down the way it did and why 3 of his men died. And to get the double spy to talk, he takes out his little baby finger and puts it into her wound, her bullet wound. And it's just weird. Don't like it, especially after the phallic objects pointed at phallic things. Just kind of having that kind of idea already in place, just doing that after that scene, it just feels weird to me.
If you can't tell, I'm kind of walking my way around actually saying what's happening. So essentially, the depiction of a man entering a woman to get her to talk in that way is, I can only assume, is related to. So I don't know why that needed to be in the story at all and what that was all about. But there it is. Yeah. Hate it, actually.
And then we get this like really pretty soft lighting montage of the Jewish woman getting ready for this premiere, and there's this one shot where you see her nail polish and it's like clumped on. It looks like it's like 30 layers on and just like bumpy and gross, and just like that's not something you could have caught beforehand. We get a scene where the double spy is caught by Waltz's character.
If the shoe fits, you must wear it.
And gets choked. That's another thing to bookmark because we'll talk about it in a little bit. But honestly, the ending is a little disappointing to me. So the high points are the cinematography. It was actually really good. He has this like cinematographer and does like really cool things with that cinematographer. Robert Richardson does some really cool stuff in this film. The subtitles and uses of like the actual languages, it's super cool to me. It's not something you see all the time, and it's not something that's in like commercial films, but it's done really well, I think. The story was also pretty interesting. It did have low points and kind of points where things were at a lull, but overall it was really interesting. Now the low points, Quentin Tarantino keeps using these title cards, and they're always very 70s like aesthetic with the kind of like ornate slab serifs. And I'm just like, it doesn't need to be in a film that's set in the 30s, you know, and like the music doesn't need to be like 70s and Western themed when it's a film about World War II. Also, acting is over the top sometimes. Like, Brad Pitt's character is so over the top. Lots of gore. It's almost like he's leaning on it in this film, and that's like the main thing is just gore. And phallic themes are just so intense, and it's a lot. Inglourious Basterds was like 7 blood drops out of 10. Next movie is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This is QT's newest film. So right from the beginning, the cinematography is getting way better. And then we see Margot Robbie for this first time, and then we get some narration.
That's a big fucking lie.
Why do we need to keep going to narration to tell a story? It's sloppy. There's a scene where it shows like an old film that Rick Dalton or Leonardo DiCaprio's character is in, and it is the like old Technicolor color grading in this is spot on. I think that's super cool. We also learned that Rick is this kind of like has been Western TV show actor who's always played a villain, and he's trying to get like popular again. And then Rick Dalton meets with Al Pacino, and Al Pacino's like, "Oh, well, you don't want to be a has-been, like work in Italy and do the spaghetti westerns and everything." And then Leonardo's just like, "Oh, I'm a has-been, like I'm washed up."
It's official, old buddy. I'm a has-been.
And cries. And then we get creepy Brad Pitt staring at a 17, 18-year-old and kind of like flirting as they're driving by. And then we get Roman Polanski.
Holy shit. No, that was Polanski.
Maybe we don't all know, but we should know what Quentin Tarantino thinks about Roman Polanski, so here's that.
How come Hollywood embraces this director who raped a 13-year-old?
He didn't rape a 13-year-old. It was statutory rape.
Yeah, all right.
Well, he was guilty of having sex with a minor. All right.
That she didn't want to have.
No, that was not the case at all. She wanted to have it.
Well,
and dated.
the transcript.
Again, not sure why I glossed over it, but obviously this is super gross, and obviously you can't consent as a 13-year-old, so fuck Quentin Tarantino for that.
And then we get some Brad Pitt driving scenes, which are very drawn out. Reminds me of LA Noire, where you're just kind of driving and listening to music between like cases or whatever. And then at 33 minutes in, we get the first instance in this film of feet. It's just the beginning, you know? We'll get to it. And then at this point, I'm starting to just question what the whole movie's about because nothing's happening. Much like in Reservoir Dogs, nothing was happening. This is more nothing is happening. And it's not like Lady Bird, not like Booksmart. It's literally just showing things and like no motivation to show it besides maybe showing Hollywood nostalgia. But in a scene Leonardo DiCaprio has this beautiful bag that I'm assuming he's keeping his scripts in. I just want it. I want the bag so bad. If anyone has it or has a bag like it, let me know and I will take it from you if you don't want it. Then we get a scene where Brad Pitt does some parkour, but it's actually probably a stuntman, which is funny because he's supposed to be playing a stuntman. And I just really wish it was Brad Pitt that did that. I so wish it was, because it'd be so funny that he learned parkour just for that one part of the film. Then we get a scene where Leo and a little girl are just kind of hanging out, talking, and then he starts crying. Just a lot of like very long scenes.
We also get some Margot Robbie driving around, doing some errands. Really, the main portion of what we see of her is just watching her do things. We'll get into it.
We get more driving scenes, and then Brad Pitt picks up the girl that he is infatuated with, and we get this scene where he is driving her to her home, I guess.
Want me to stop your while driving?
How old are you?
Even if Brad Pitt isn't like outwardly creepy, like he obviously wants to do stuff, but he just is aware that he shouldn't with a minor. Then we see Lena Dunham and we see so many feet. This movie is what, 2 hours and 40 minutes long. It could be probably an hour and 30 minutes if you cut down so many of the scenes and got to the point. Like at this point, this is where the film is actually kind of interesting. But we've gone so long with just kind of nothing. It's just, I don't know, it loses its strength, I guess. And then more narration comes in, and it's just...
After that Musso and Frank's lunch meeting, Marvin did provide Rick job opportunities in the Italian film industry.
Boring and easy, and there had to have been a better way to transition from that part to like 3 years later, without the narration, without telling what's happened since the last time we heard from the characters. But whatever. We get towards the end. Rick Dalton has had success, and then back to less success, and then let's go of Brad Pitt being a stuntman.
I can't afford you anymore, Cliff.
And then they have this like one last night together kind of thing. And we finally really get to what this movie was advertised as, which is like a Charlie Manson Helter Skelter movie, which it isn't at all, but until this last scene. And it's a super interesting take on it, actually. I think that it could have ended earlier than it did, but whatever. Overall, pretty good movie. Let's get into the high points and low points. So cinematography was actually really good, to be honest. Acting was also really good. Brad Pitt didn't suck this time, and the whole second half was good. But that leads us to the low points, which is the whole first half seems like way too much setup and more day in the life. Like I've said, it could have been cut down. I feel like they gave too much room for Quentin Tarantino to do whatever he wanted, and it just kind of shows. Just because it's a Hollywood film, he probably got a bunch of like kind of free reign. And it's a big budget film because it was by Sony and everything. So I don't know. Also, there was so much feet. There's so much feet. No one needs to see that much feet. He doesn't need to be able to just take videos for himself of women's feet. I'll talk about that in a second. But that was a low point for sure of the film. Also, Margot Robbie was like nowhere to be seen. Like she's in some scenes, but she doesn't talk that often. And when she is in the scene, usually people are talking about her, or you're just like seeing her do things. And I don't know. Best Dressed talks about it because she says it really well, actually.
She barely talks, and she barely has any interesting scenes. She was billed as one of the main 3 actors on the poster. Throughout the entire film, it's just the camera following her around, doing errands, and again, Margot Robbie is not saying anything. She's just portraying the same delighted, giggly emotion the entire movie. There's a scene where she goes to a party and she just dances for 2 minutes while another guy at the party tells us about her life. She's portrayed as, in my opinion, this male fantasy of the ditzy, innocent, beautiful girl who doesn't know that she's beautiful, who doesn't know her own intelligence, who really doesn't speak often, and is always like happy and dancy and happy to be looked at by men.
I give Once Upon a Time in Hollywood a 4 or 5 blood drops out of 10.
So with all that being said, with all the summaries of the films and what I thought about them generally, let's rank them, shall we? I think that Reservoir Dogs was the worst film. Objectively, just the worst film out of the 4. Then I thought it was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, just because nothing happens in the film. And then Inglourious Basterds was second, and then Kill Bill was first. I didn't really have much to complain about for Kill Bill. Everything else, every other movie, I had like pretty decent chunks of complaints. So actually, I pretty much enjoyed the majority of the films. I guess I can respect Quentin Tarantino as a director for that stuff and as a writer, but this is kind of where we start talking about an artist versus their art. So let's talk about that for a second, because Django Unchained was a really good film, but suggesting that Django Unchained is a flawless movie is wrong to me. There's an interview with Jeffrey Wright, and he is on Sway in the Morning, a radio show, and he explains his thoughts on the film.
The thing that I found interesting about Django was that it's trying to be a story, trying to kind of be an evolutionary story of a black hero in antebellum South. But what I found a little strange was that the most complex characters, the most powerful character, really is the German character, and he's the one who catalyzes the whole narrative. He's the one that drives it forward. And then as well, the most dangerous character really is Leonardo DiCaprio's character, but he's taken out by the German character. It's not Django who really has the most powerful elements within the film. And so I found that there was an odd racial calculus that was used in creating the structure in which the film takes place.
And honestly, he definitely has a point. Christoph Waltz's character is the person that kicks off the film and kind of ends the film, or ends the conflict of the film. And like, yes, Jamie Foxx does kill all the white people, as Quentin Tarantino suggests.
And I kill all the white people in the movie.
People are pissed about that. But
kiss my ass.
Right?
Oh, man, yeah.
Well,
one, he does. That's actually a statement of fact.
I've seen that movie. He really does.
But Waltz kills Leo, who seems to be the kind of like the antagonist of the film. He seems to be leader of the charge and leader of the action for most of the film, and then Jamie Foxx kind of takes over and builds his strength as a character. I don't know, I could be wrong. While promoting Django, he talks about his use of the N-word.
If somebody's going to say, you use the word more than it was used in the antebellum South, I'm going to say you're wrong.
And this isn't really new for him. He's gotten a lot of flack for his use of the word in his writing in the past. And it comes out that he uses the word casually as well.
Lawyer do have this kind of dialogue. I call him my he called me his. Me and Quentin Tarantino says that. Well, let me.
I also learned that just the way he talks to black people in general is pretty problematic, I guess.
Pleasing your fans or pleasing the critics for you?
Oh, interesting question, actually. Well, I want to please my fans, and I want to please the critics that are my fans. The critics ain't my fans. I don't give a damn.
True.
Right. Honestly, I feel like it's a weird thing, and like code switching is a thing, but code switching to the point of where he's at is just wrong. And like using black vernacular like that and trying to sound like that is just not right. And then one more thing is just something we see a lot with white cis men directors going too far with their actors to get what they want. And this is why I wanted you to remember the two scenes, the scene from Kill Bill and the scene from Inglourious Basterds. Both choking scenes. And it turns out that Quentin Tarantino wanted to choke Uma Thurman and the woman from Inglourious Basterds.
You strangled Diane Kruger, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. We were, you know, it was real. It would look really good. But also because I was, able to,
Enjoy it?
Well, no, I was.
Because he knew what he wanted, and he decided to take the reins for that. And Quentin Tarantino has absolutely no right to do this. Like, how is this allowed? How is he allowed to do whatever he wants to these women? It's just such a bad power dynamic between like directors and actors, and he's just fully taking advantage of it, much like he's taking advantage of these women's feet. There's an instance of one of the characters in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. She didn't really want her feet to be shown, but Quentin Tarantino heavily suggested she should, and was kind of like fighting for it to happen, and it's just gross. Best Dressed also talks about this. So
I watched this interview with Margaret Qualley, and Jimmy Kimmel like jokingly asks her about the foot shot because everybody knows the foot shot is weird.
Yeah, when Quentin first suggested that I put my feet on the dashboard, I was like, okay, let's be honest here. Like, check these guys out. These aren't great. I don't know that you want to showcase them.
No, good.
No.
Did it make him more eager to get your actual feet in it when you started
It was
saying?
a challenge. Yeah.
Rant over. But would I consider myself a Quentin Tarantino fanboy now? I would not. Honestly, I don't. I don't think his films are like the best thing ever. They're not my thing. I don't think I could support him as a director. Maybe I could watch some of his movies in a way that I'm not supporting him. Much like I wouldn't support like Stanley Kubrick. It's not right. As someone who's going to be in this industry, I don't want the women I work with to feel like they're in danger, feel like they have to do things because a director says they need to do it. It's just wrong. If you want to watch a video going into some problematic things that directors have done in the past and everything, and what you can do on set to kind of remedy that, let me know. Be happy to do it. I want to make more videos like this too, where just kind of go through some movies or whatever that are kind of centered in film school, like class plans and stuff. Like, I want to talk about Vertigo. I want to talk about Psycho. I want to talk about Citizen Kane. That'll probably be my next video, to be honest. Sorry I've been gone for so long, but I want to keep doing videos, and now I have time to, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, thanks guys for watching. This is probably going to be such a long video, so I'm sorry. So if you've made it this far, thank you for watching again. Check out my Instagram and Twitter. Don't post like a lot on either of them, but if you want to follow them, go for it.
Also, check out my Letterboxd. All 3 social media are just going to be in the description also, so yeah, check me out.
It's good to see you. Glad you're doing well, and I will see you. How the fuck do I sign off? Alright guys, I'll see you next time whenever I put out a new video. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.